This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, and Monday Night Raw last night came to you from Albany, New York, my beautiful hometown of Albany, and I've got a lot to say. As I attended live in person, I've got a lot to say on the in-person perspective. You may have seen a sign or two from me, obviously the WWE Podcast sign, but also when Cody Rhodes was out there, I had a apparently prominent Turn Cody heel sign. So that was me, selflessly, shamelessly promoting and also telling WWE to turn Cody heel, of which I'm sure it'll have zero effect. But I hope you guys enjoyed Raw as well. I did too, and it was an experience that it never gets old as a wrestling fan. And while there wasn't a whole lot of star power there, I tweeted this out too. I said the star power last night wasn't the best. In fact, it was a bit disappointing, especially considering there was no Randy Orton. He signed with SmackDown, so he's exclusive to the SmackDown brand now. And then CM Punk was advertised to come to Thursday's show, or rather Friday's SmackDown, and also next Monday, but not last night. And then on top of that, you didn't have Rhea Ripley, which angered a lot of fans as well. So it was from a star power perspective, a lot of people were not happy. So when it comes to that, because there were CM Punk chants, Orton chant at one point, mommy chants, and people were just very annoyed. And then you kept seeing on the screen the graphic of next week, this Friday, Punk returns, next Monday, Punk returns, Orton's there on Friday. Like it really couldn't, Albany couldn't have fallen worse in WWE's strategic plans to bring these stars on the show. It just, unfortunately for us, fell terribly. But on the other side of the coin, I think we got some pay-per-view quality matches. An instant classic with Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes, which I'll get to as an in-person experience, was just amazing. And some quality tag team wrestling as well. Now, there were some stinkers that the crowd just didn't give a damn about, which was Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. People didn't seem to give two craps about that. Well, we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. But welcome, guys, to the WWE Podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying your day as we are getting closer to, a little bit closer to the Royal Rumble event, which is, 5 or 6 weeks away. It feels like a long time, and it is. But we've got a long time to dissect it and learn new entrants. Right now, I believe Cody Rhodes is the only one who's in it. Although, if you know the rules, all you have to do is declare it and you're magically in. So we've got, again, a lot to talk about. If you guys want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the way to go. Or you can go to wwepodcast.com, go VIP, and also Apple Podcasts offers an ad-free experience if you click the ad-free button. So let's get into it, okay? And let me just say first off the bat, the arena was 70% full. I mean, I'd say at least half, if not a little bit more, of the upper deck was tarped off. I would say it was less crowded than it was back in May, at the end of May, when Rollins first won his world title. It was a little less full than at that point. So yeah, it was a bit surprising to see that with a lot of the upper deck taped off. And actually, they had to have some seat fillers next to me. They had people being brought in for seat filling for a couple of seats that were free, even where I was sitting. So it was a bit surprising in that respect, but still a solid crowd, a loud crowd at times, although I know we kind of put you guys to sleep during certain segments of the night. I would say that we are in kind of an average crowd. I'm not going to, even though it's my hometown, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, we're better than most. No, I'd say we were average. You're kind of your average crowd. Big stars warrant big reactions. And so that's kind of what it was. And as far as the mix of people, a lot of kids, which is cool to see. A lot of the older crowd too, meaning like 50s and above, even some women that were in their 50s and above. And if you're in your 50s, by the way, I'm not saying that's old, I should say older for the typical wrestling fan demographic. I'm almost 40 myself, so hey. But that's kind of the demo. A lot of Cody Rhodes shirts, people buying those overpriced championship belts for $600,000. They were there too, and it was again a younger crowd, which is cool to see. Except for when, and I know people battle me on Twitter on this, and it is what it is. I'm standing by it. They did the DX cam, which I'm sure they do during commercial breaks for all of their televised events, where they point the camera at random people in the crowd and you're supposed to do the DX chop, right? Seems fun enough. And it is. It's fun to see, people who are doing that, but it just, you see these kids who are 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10, 11, 12, who are doing the DX chop. And again, I said this on the last event in May when they were here. It's just uncomfortable to watch. I don't care if the parents are there. In fact, that makes it worse that the parents are there, because the underlying meaning of that is exactly what you think it means. It didn't originate from some, innocent, just, from the heavens thing, right? Like that came from exactly what you think it means. It wasn't just born from the Catholic Church or something, you know what I mean? It was meant to be exactly what you think. So when you see kids do it, and it's funny at first, it's super uncomfortable to watch because the kids have no idea what it means. They just think it's fun to do. But it's kind of gross. I mean, I'm not sitting here being a square, all right? But you can't tell me that after seeing it for 3 seconds, realizing, okay, it's kind of funny, but also, again, if you watch it, it's super uncomfortable. And they did it again. And I even uploaded some of it to X last night. So that is what it is. And they did the typical, they actually did a Money in the Bank game where you had to follow the briefcase on the screen, which was ridiculously easy. They did the WWE Universe cam, which is just like focusing on random people. They did Sign of the Night. A lot of promos for Stone Cold's podcast with Farouk that's coming up or is already released. They did a ton of Kurt Angle stuff with like the docu-series that they're doing. Kurt Angle's on one of them, Cody Rhodes. Like, Nia Jax even has her own. So they're doing a lot of promotion within promotions, WWE 2K23, all that kind of stuff, just to keep the crowd entertained. At one point also, during the main event, the Raw screen, the massive LED screen on the ramp, like 80% of it died. Like it just went black. And they were trying to get it up for about 15 minutes, and they finally did. And that's why if you heard the crowd randomly cheer for no apparent reason, it's because the LED was finally fixed. So I don't know what was the cause of that there. Maybe it's the spirit of the Fiend coming through and trying to make his return. But it felt like that, and it was, I don't know what happened. Like, again, 80% of the LED just died. So, but, overall, other than that, like the kind of stuff you don't see behind the scenes, there's really not a ton. If you've been to a WWE event, you know what it's like. You can tell when they go to commercial. I was watching Michael Cole and Wade Barrett at the announce desk, and you could tell when they were obviously on commercial. They were just like BSing with one another, and they weren't calling the match because there's nobody to call it for during commercial. So one last thing I'll say before I get into the details and give you guys an overview and give you my in-person thoughts on the segment by segment. We had some people who were not happy about, and particularly around me, about people who brought signs and how it blocks your view. Now, I get it. You shouldn't be holding up your sign the whole time. It is a pain in the neck. If you've been to an event, you might have experienced this, where you're behind somebody who's always holding up a sign. And then it blocks your view. It's not fair. But, there were people around me, particularly behind me, this middle-aged woman who, said, right at the beginning of Raw, I was holding up my sign. And she was already complaining. And she's like, oh, this better not be happening the whole time. I looked back at her and I said, it's going to be a long night for you. And, because I don't know what to tell you. If you've never been to a wrestling event, people are going to hold up signs at certain times. You shouldn't be doing that the whole time. Obviously, it's not. It's an obstruction of view, and it's not fair. But you can't have someone sit there the whole time. Like if you expect people to be sitting down like they're watching a theater performance, in some ways they are, it ain't gonna happen, right? It's just not gonna happen. Clearly, this woman has never been to an event, and nonetheless, so it is what it is. But I'm a big believer that you brought a sign, show it off, but choose your moments. Be selectful of when you put up your sign. And obviously think about the people that are behind you. I had a guy right in front of me that was a pain right in the neck with his sign, but I understood what he's doing. I brought my own sign. He just wasn't as smart with his selection on when to put it up. And he also put it up in a way that was like obstructing the view perfectly for the people behind you, instead of holding it up as high as you can, which is what I did. That way the people behind you can still see through you. Anyway, so that was just one other gripe I had about some of the people who just go there and feel like they have some kind of entitlement to tell people what to do. Ain't going to happen with me. But I was very selective. I didn't have my sign up the whole time. So let's get into Monday Night Raw and start with Drew McIntyre, who opened the show. And by the way, I got there like 2 minutes before the show started. So if there were anything that happened before the show started, I didn't see it. Okay. I have no clue what happened. I got there 2 minutes before the show started. All right. So we got McIntyre coming out very quickly, and he said that everyone's lost their minds. He said you can be fired, released, and then come back to the company and be instantly forgiven. A CM Punk chant broke out. He said he could be talking about anybody. And McIntyre recalled headbutting Seth Rollins and also vented to Jey about how he apologized to Orton. He said McIntyre said Jey's time is coming, and he was forgetting someone, and then he was interrupted by Sami Zayn, who got a nice pop. Zayn was the person he was trying to remember. Zayn said McIntyre had a lot to say about everybody and told him to say whatever he had to about him to his face. And McIntyre said Zayn is the one person in the world who deserves to be screwed by the bloodline. He said Zayn was the errand boy of the bloodline, and eventually he screwed them over. And McIntyre asked Zayn what he thought would happen. You deserve it. It's the truth. That's what McIntyre said. And Zayn said he thought he and McIntyre were alike, but the more he hears from him, the more he realizes that they aren't alike, and that he's not a delusional person who points his finger at everyone else for their own shortcomings. And Zayn said that when he lost the title in front of his friends and family, he stayed hungry, and it carried him all the way to the main event of WrestleMania. Zayn said he was able to make his family proud, and then asked if McIntyre said he could say the same. That sent him out into a tizzy, by the way. McIntyre and Zayn was the next match. A really nice match here. It was 20 minutes long. Sorry. Very long opening match, but I'm not complaining. It was kind of the theme of the night. Not a ton of star power, top star power anyway, but very good quality wrestling. That was kind of the make good, or the deodorant for Orton and Punk not being there, is we got really good matches. And this was one of them. And it ended with Zayn going for, wanted to run the ropes for a flip dive, but he was selling leg pain. McIntyre slipped inside the ring, hit him from behind with a chop block, and then a Claymore, and got the victory. And so this was really nice. Not only a great quality match, nice back and forth, but McIntyre showing some viciousness, starting to really step into that heel role now. No longer is it being teased. We're there. I'd say that the turn is now complete. It's no more dancing around it, tiptoeing into it, circling the drain. I think we've gone through the drain. We're here. This is what McIntyre is going to be, is this kind of vengeful, spiteful, grudge-holding, now vicious McIntyre. And he's got a nasty streak, a mean streak, with attacking limbs. And then he attacked afterwards. Zayn was getting checked out by medical. And we had McIntyre come to the backstage and attack him again and hit the leg again. So this is just really nice progression in Drew McIntyre's development as a heel. Because now you learn that not only he believes he's not the one who changed, but now you have a vicious streak on top of grudge holding, on top of just being miserable. It's all just, it's working so nicely with Drew. And we're there. And so now Drew and Sammy are probably going to have a match at Rumble. If not, they'll be in the Rumble together. I don't know if it's worthy really of a Rumble match instead of having them in the Rumble match itself. So it's one of the two, obviously. And I would imagine they're both in the Rumble instead of having a separate match, because don't forget, guys, we have like 6 weeks of television to fill, and we'll get to this match. You know, maybe that's what I'm going to go with. Well, this match will happen on Raw in the next few weeks, and then they'll build to the Rumble as entrance. So, really nice here. This is just, it's a blast to see what Drew's doing here. And he got a pretty negative reaction. I don't know how it came across on TV, but he got a pretty negative reaction. When he first came out, though, people were just happy to see a big star. And then as the promo progressed and the match progressed, it was solidly in the camp of, the support was solidly in the camp of Sami Zayn. Okay. We then got, let's see, the video of Jey Uso was really nice about what this means to him, getting this opportunity for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's the first opportunity for the world title for him, and what it meant to him and his story and all that it was well done. It was well done. All right, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Now, before this, we got a little interaction with Jax and Lynch. And so Lynch just can't find a real opponent yet. Now, I know she's going to eventually face Jax, and probably will before the Royal Rumble. But, like, Lynch still has not. And I feel like it's been a year since Lynch has had an actual big star to hold on to and work with. She's helping get over new talent in NXT for a few months, and that was a lot of fun. She was locked in with Trish Stratus for about 8 months, it felt like. Now she's with Nia Jax, and they have history with the broken nose that infamously made Becky Lynch partly into what she is today. And, you know, Becky was talking about the receipt that's coming for that. So, all right, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Not a lot of crowd reaction for this. You know, the crowd was not exactly into this, I have to say. Nia Jax, in ring, you know, in person, she's fine. She's just, because of her weight, she doesn't move very smoothly. She doesn't take back bumps as smoothly as you watch the other women, and it's simply because of her weight. I know some people, it's a fact. Okay, if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. It's just because she's an overweight female. She just is. I know you don't like it. I'd say the same thing about Otis. He's an overweight male, and he doesn't take bumps like the rest of the men should or do. So I know that for some reason there's this mythical protection around not being able to ever call anyone overweight, but guess what? She is. And it hurts. I think her joints, which is why she's had so many knee problems. As a character, though, outside of all the physical things that, again, set her apart. I mean, her weight actually, they're using it to their advantage the best they can. Her weight is actually attributable to her finish, which is the splash, right? Or the, what does she call it? The Annihilator. So, like, she obviously is aware of her weight. They're aware of her weight. And so they use it to their advantage, and she is a force to be reckoned with, all that stuff. But it has some massive downsides, which lend to some people getting injured because her timing is much different than the other women. She's stronger than a lot of the other women. Sure, she's slower because of her weight than the other women. It's just the way it is. Okay. But you take all that aside, and I don't even care if she's fat or not. Like, it doesn't matter to me. But her character is, I mean, I hate it. And she's just, I mean, just listening to her talk and like this, it's so nasally, and like listening to her is painful. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a Nia Jax fan in any sense. If you are, and I know we have some listening to this show, wonderful. I hope that you continue to enjoy her. Okay. Great. But for me, watching her, seeing her is painful. That's just how I feel. If you guys feel differently, cool. You know, you're not going to, I'm sure a lot of you don't agree with me on that, but hey, That's why we all have opinions. So the match was fine, though, I guess, right? Like, Shayna Baszler put up a good fight. I think the right woman won, because even though I just don't understand what they've done with Shayna Baszler, who got, by the way, almost no reaction from the crowd. It probably came across on TV, unless they piped in crowd noise. The crowd didn't react to Shayna Baszler hardly at all, because they don't know what to do with her. She's been heel, face, breaks people's arms, then stops being on TV for 4 months, and like, she's tag team champions, and then she goes away. Like, we don't know what she is. I have no idea what she is. So the crowd just throws her hands up and goes, I don't know. And that came across. They didn't know what the hell to do with Shayna Baszler. But Nia Jax wins, and then Becky Lynch comes out, and Nia Jax clears the ring. So we once again have a stopgap for Becky Lynch until she gets to her real opponent, whoever that may be, Rhea Ripley, whoever. And she's going to work with Nia for probably the next 3, 4, 5 weeks until the Rumble. So, all right. We got CM Punk's return for like the 80th time, at least in video packages, which were really annoying the crowd. There were CM Punk chants, but man, once they put up CM Punk next week, returns to Raw, I mean, you could have started a riot. People were just like, are you effing kidding me? But it's timing. I mean, it is what it is. You always hope you're not at one of those shows that says next week this big thing happens. That was unfortunately Albany last night, where we got to basically see and have a show of 3 hours for a promotion for really next week's show. But we also got a whole bunch of like moments that happened in Albany, New York, like when Stone Cold came out with the beer truck, which was rated the #1 Raw moment of all time during the Attitude Era. I still am bitter that I didn't attend that show. I really forget why I didn't. That happened. So a whole thing on the stunner, right? Like there was a whole montage on some of Austin's stunners that he's done over the last 20 years. All right. So then we got DIY, and they took on Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci in a best of 3 falls match. And this match, I have to say, over-delivered. Now, I shouldn't be surprised that it over-delivered, given the talent in the ring, especially DIY. But it over-delivered also in another respect. The crowd reaction. Because when they first came out, it was mild. Right? It was mild support for DIY. But as the match went on, the support grew. And it grew and grew. And that is all you can hope for. If you know your character doesn't have a big connection, a strong connection with the audience, your goal should be to bring them in, to make them care. Even if the storyline hasn't given you a ton of promo, nearly any character development, the goal should be to somehow bring them in. And that's what this match did. And the crowd continued. I mean, they were really helping support DIY, especially there was a crowd of, 50 people or so that were really into DIY that helped ignite the rest of the crowd to support them. They were on the floor, on the right side of the camera. And, it really helped ignite the support for DIY and got people into the match. And the first fall went to Ludwig and Giovanni Vinci in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We then got Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa getting the second fall in 10 minutes. And then the third fall went to the babyfaces, DIY, winning in 15 minutes and 10 seconds. And this was a lot of fun. And these two are very good in the ring together, as you'd imagine. I would say of the two that are more over, Johnny Gargano got the bigger response compared to Tommaso Ciampa. So this was good. This was really, I mean, it's good to see an actual tag team match that doesn't involve the titles. And this was a good way to kind of like reestablish the tag division. And I liked it. As did the crowd. All right. So backstage, we had Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Chelsea Green is just so much fun to watch. We got then inside the clubhouse of the Judgment Day clubhouse, R-Truth. People popped really big for R-Truth. And R-Truth is just so beloved. You talk about an organic connection with the fans. That is R-Truth. He's so easy to like. He's got a knack for comedy, of which like 3 people in the history of wrestling have had real talent for comedy. But he's also super respected and a genuinely good dude. And I'd encourage everyone to watch the documentary that WWE did on R-Truth. But he had like in the Judgment Day Clubhouse the retro 1995 TV, and he's talking about it being an LCD flat screen or something. I mean, I was laughing. People were laughing all over the place. It was great. Oh, God. Okay. We then got Caden Carter and Katana Chance versus Tegan Nox and Natalya. This match, I mean, Caden Carter and Katana Chance got pretty much no reaction. I'd say even less than Shayna Baszler. The crowd just didn't care because they don't know who they are. If you watch NXT, you have an idea. But if you were to just take a survey of the people who were at the event last night in Raw, you would ask them, hey, do you know who Caden Carter and Katana Chance were before they came here? They'd say, no. I can guarantee, I bet you like it's high 90%, because there was nothing here of a reaction for them. And I felt for them. But how could we? If you've only watched the main roster and you don't watch NXT, they've done no character development for these two. Zero. None. But Caden Carter and Katana Chance did beat Tegan Nox and Natalya in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. And then after the match, Green climbed onto the apron and she got knocked down by Chance with a dropkick. All right. Then we got Cody Rhodes coming out, and he was talking about the first time he saw Mist. He was a young boy. He was terrified by the man who used it, the Great Muta. He said he should have listened to the clues Nakamura dropped before he attacked him. And he said Nakamura now has his attention, and said Nakamura could emerge from the shadows and explain himself, or he could come out and fight. Nakamura then explained to him about how they've taken the same path, and Nakamura has climbed the mountain. He climbed the mountain that Cody did, and then said that both of them came up short in their WrestleMania title matches, and Nakamura said he slipped into a bottomless pit, which is actually kind of true. He said they suffered the same humiliation, and said the devil in your mind whispers that you'll never make it back there. But now you have awoken me, inspired me, and I'm here to unburden you, to step into your shoes and take that story off your hands. I never got to finish my story, so I will finish yours. This is all just, I mean, whoever's writing this for Nakamura, it's really good. And Nakamura's setting of his promo, the way he delivers his words, how his facial expressions are all A+. And I really enjoyed that. I mean, it gives you an explanation as to why he did what he did. You know, explaining why things happen. Unlike Brock Lesnar's attacks on anyone he ever works with, we never get an explanation. This was just something simple, but smart. So Cody said he doesn't hate or respect Nakamura until he stands in the ring with him. And he said, you keep saying we're the same. He said, prove it. And then he dropped the mic. So the big question here is, did I sing along to Cody's song? I mean, that's what that's the one question, the big question on everyone's mind. And the answer is not really. I have to say, his entrance music it's objectively a fun song to listen to. It's unfortunately tied with a character I hate, so the song itself is tainted. But the whoa is really infectious. It's really hard to resist the whoa. So did I say whoa? Sadly, I did, but I didn't scream it. I just kind of I spoke it, if that makes sense. I tried to resist. That doesn't mean I support Cody in any way. It's just a fun sing-along. So that's all I did. Okay. So sadly, I did participate, but in as about as minimal of a way as I could. So I'm sure you're all wondering that. All right. So then we got, Julius Creed and Brutus Creed, the Creed brothers, with Ivy Nile, taking on Dominic and JD. This was so much fun. This was really good. It was 11 minutes and 15 seconds with Julius Creed and Brutus Creed beating Dom and JD. Ton of heat for Dominic. Julius and Brutus won over the crowd. Big time. I mean, with their they have an amateur wrestling style of pro wrestling that we haven't seen in so long. All the moves that everyone does are all the moves everyone does. You very rarely see different maneuvers being done, or maneuvers that are common but done differently. For example, the suplexes that they do are done with literally raw power. I mean, they literally pick them up without having the opponent help them, which is normally the case. It's just, they feel like just raw amateur wrestlers who have come to just wreak havoc on the tag team division. And the over the head, belly to belly suplexes, there was like 6 of them done. The crowd loved that. It was a lot of fun. And having them beat JD and Dom made sense. They are on a roll right now. They are, in my mind, from a pure wrestling, not character, but pure wrestling perspective, they are the class of the tag team division. You could argue Otis and Chad Gable. Well, Chad Gable more specifically, Otis isn't exactly in that same genre, are up there as well. But these two have such a natural, they just look like actual athletes, not from a chiseled Ludwig Kaiser, a Randy Orton kind of chiseled way, but in just like what kind of normal athletes that are amateur wrestlers look like from collegiate wrestling. And I don't know how else to explain it. It's just like they're just raw. There's no character, cartoony stuff attached to them. They're winning people over with no character whatsoever. None. And maybe that's their character, is they don't have one. They're just pure athletes. And it's just fun as hell to watch. And they win over the crowd week after week, and Albany loved them as well. So, a lot of fun. All right. Now, by the way, it does, I would imagine, put Julius Creed and Brutus Creed into tag team title contention. I don't know if that was actually part of the stipulation on this match. I don't think it was, but I'm sure they're in the conversation. We did get Seth Rollins being informed backstage by Adam Pearce that Punk was invited to be on Raw next week, to the loud boos of the crowd. And he has the intention of signing him to a Raw contract. Rollins said he doesn't give a damn. He said that when Punk shows the world his true colors and this blows up in Pearce's face, Pearce should stay out of his way when Rollins does what he has to do. So, continuing to tiptoe around the eventual Punk and Rollins match, which probably is not going to happen until after Rumble, maybe Mania, but more likely they'll have a big interaction at the Rumble, and then we'll be off to the races. All right, let's go to the World Heavyweight Championship match. One that was, again, PLE main event quality. Really, really good. Was it slow at times? Sure. But there should be those moments. Were there a ton of finishes that were kicked out of that almost got egregious? Yes. Rollins kicked out of way too many finishes. And it just furthers the narrative of, can finishes actually finish a match once in a while? Because when you see a finish, we all as wrestling fans go, it's going to take at least 1 or 2 more. And that's normally the case. So we keep getting reinforced with this belief. And it didn't help in this match. However, that's a minor complaint compared to the actual quality of the match, how well these two work together, and for Jey's career, solidifying him as a world title contender for years to come. Eventually probably winning it. So this was really good. Again, Jey may have had his best singles match to date. Maybe objectively he did, without question. And really, people thought for sure it was over after the second Uso splash, the super kick. They bought in, hook, line, and sinker. And it was just wonderful. The crowd was, it's like we were kind of in a slumber or in a coma half the night. It's like everyone switched, bam. Everyone switched their light on and like, you know what? I'm going to bring some energy to this show. It's like Albany woke up I don't know how it came across on TV, but it's like we woke up and actually cared about a match, genuinely from start to finish. Not that we were quiet the whole night. There were some matches, again, as I mentioned, that were just, right? But generally, it took time for Albany to get into matches. This one was hot start to finish. And when you're in that kind of environment, in a match that's high stakes, with a quality this high, with 2 stars of this caliber that are that good, it just immerses you. This is where you get lost in time. This is where you it's that sweet spot as a wrestling fan. And those that have been to live events know what I'm talking about. By the way, the word yeet was probably the most over thing of the entire night. Now, I know there's copyright issues and yeet can't be used and someone else has the rights to the word yeet. But whoever that is, and I saw the picture of him, but I don't know who he is. Whoever that is, WWE just needs to pay him because they are leaving so much money on the table by not copywriting this and printing millions in merch with yeet. It is over. People were chanting yeet from start to finish, as I'm sure you saw. I would say, that Rollins was by de facto the heel, although he didn't get booed. He just didn't get cheered as loudly as Jey. With every punch, it was yeet, yeet, yeet. I mean, you heard it. And in between the yeets, it was dead silence. He had that crowd in the palm of his hand. And it's one of those that it's like just so energizing as a wrestling fan when you go to these events and have those moments. It keeps you coming back. And everything that Jey did, the crowd was into. People were ready to see Jey take the title. I thought, oh my God, especially after the second Uso splash, we were all counting 1, 2, and then Rollins kicks out. We're like, what? And then the holy S chants because people were literally like, that doesn't make sense. But the stomp and the victory by Rollins, he retains. It still is probably the right move going into WrestleMania season. But if this was a test for Jey got an A+. He more than passed. And he is going to be a main event player. Literally, he will live up to his name of being main event Jey Uso for years to come. That's what this test showed. Just great. Now, after the match, we got McIntyre coming out. I was worried he was going to interfere and screw with the match. They didn't. And they waited until the match was over for McIntyre to appear, attack both guys. Wham. Rollins goes through a table, right? And so that's fine. I kind of expected that. But now we have 4 guys kind of intertwined here, of which it's probably going to be a fatal 4-way, maybe at the Rumble or before, for the world title of Rollins, McIntyre, Zayn, and Uso. I would think that given how intertwined these men are, that this is what's happening at Rumble or before, depending on if they want those 4 men in the Rumble. Now, you can still have them in the Rumble match and have a world title match that's been done before, but we'll see how the rest of the weeks go and play out here. But it looks like that's where they're headed because McIntyre he attacked Zayn earlier in the night, which means that program's continuing. But then he attacked Jey and Rollins, so now he's intertwined with those 2, and it's likely that now Fatal 4-Way looks like what's the plan moving forward. And that's fine. But and it really does in that match, if and when a Fatal 4-Way happens, who the hell wins that? That, to me, is very interesting and could lead to Seth Rollins losing the belt without being pinned and having McIntyre, say, pin Sami Zayn in the Fatal 4-Way, wins the world title. We have now Rollins be protected by not taking the fall, losing the belt without being involved in the decision, and it frees him up for Punk. Because I don't want Punk in a world title match. I just don't. So I think that's probably what the next step is. And it could be at Rumble where that happens. So that's my prediction, at least in the next couple of months, of how things are going to play out with the world title picture and how we get to Punk and Rollins. But overall, again, I don't know how you guys enjoyed it at home. I haven't watched it back. but I thought it was a solid Raw from a wrestling perspective and some star power, just not what people expected. I mean, how can you, if Orton and Punk didn't return, people would probably be in person anyway, looking at this going, yeah, that was a really good Raw. Everyone was there. But since Orton and Punk returned, and then the crowd got it thrown in their face of, Orton's now on SmackDown. We saw that like 3 times on our review. And Punk will not only be there this Friday for the tribute to the troops in Providence, Rhode Island on SmackDown, but also he's going to be here next Monday. So like we kept getting it thrown in our face. That took it down a notch simply because who wants to see that? Yeah, like who wants to see big stars return the week after the show you're watching that you're attending? I mean, it just sucks. There's no way to put it. But you know, they tend to be here every 6 months, so I would imagine they'll be back here in Albany probably in maybe late April, early May, probably based on their scheduling, but we'll see. So that's all I got for you guys of the in-person perspective of Monday Night Raw. I'm the guy that I was actually darting out of the arena, literally running out of the arena as McIntyre slammed Rollins through the table. I took off because I don't want to deal with you guys know, the parking lots and the crowd. I mean, just like I literally was running like a jerk, running through the concourse, getting back to my car so I could get the heck out of there. But yeah, so guys, thank you so much. And as we were actually recording here, we got a new patron. I'd like to thank the new patron, Aaron Crowell. So one of the two. Thank you, Aaron, for joining us here on the WWE podcast. It is much appreciated. And Shorty J as well. Shorty J, thank you so much for your pledge. And I hope you guys enjoy all your ad-free stuff. Now, I may, although it hasn't been decided yet, but I may be moving the PLE review shows to the NXT Plus tier. Everything else will remain the same. I haven't done it yet. I'm just thinking about that as the podcast grows. Wouldn't it make sense for me to try to grow the business? It may be silly if I wouldn't. So it's not something I've done right now, but I'm toying with it of incentivizing people to move up in tier by saying, hey, you want the PLE reviews ad-free? You can check us out on the NXT Plus side of things. But I don't know. I'm sure that you guys on the base tier are like, no, that's just a money grab. It's not really. I mean, you still get like 25 shows a month ad-free. So like it'd just be the PLE reviews that you'd have to go up a tier. So that may happen towards Rumble, but I don't know. I'm sure everyone on NXT is going to severely oppose that. But anyway. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on the WWE podcast. It is much appreciated. Go ad-free on Patreon. Go ad-free on Apple Podcasts or WWEpodcast.com. I know we didn't do a current state this week. I was obviously at Raw, so Anthony DeMarco didn't join me last night as we normally do. But we'll be back tomorrow with the mailbag, and then we will be pretty much. I'll be done for the week until the weekend review. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.